more breaking news we need to shift our attention to. Dr. Amit Sen has been patiently waiting for us. He's Child and Adolescent Psychiatrist, co-founder and director of Children First. He's with us this morning too. Dr. Sen, thank you for waiting so very patiently. Dr. Sen, now from a psychological perspective, how do you look at this entire conversation that's been unfolding? It's going to reach the Supreme Court very soon. There's a host of opinions coming in already. But as far as an adolescent psyche is concerned, 16 or 18, how much of a difference does it make?
So to start with, I think we need to understand why this law came into existence in the first place, right? Through the POCSO Act in 2012. What were we trying to solve for? So we were trying to protect our children, and it came from a lot of data that told us that our young people are indeed being sexually exploited, abused in a very big way, right? And those were because of many social ills that are there, right? If you look at it scientifically from a psychological or medical point of view, sexuality starts much earlier than 16, actually. Young boys and girls begin to become aware of their bodies, their gender, and their sexuality from their early adolescent years, which is even before teens, actually. And that sexuality and, gender, the awareness of it, and negotiating through that, as they grow up, is a central part of the healthy growth and development of young people. And if we do not allow that, if we kind of, tell them that because there are social ills out there, because, there is a possibility of exploitation, you're not going to do this at all. Till 18, you don't have any scope of getting into any kind of sexual relationships, activity, any kind of intimacy, then we are doing them a big disfavor. So while we have to, I think, allow, young people to have agency, they make big decisions, much before 18. They, for instance, make decisions about which stream they're going to study in, what colleges they will go to. They all happen. They're solving for their lives. They're building a career from before 18. And at that point in time, when sexuality is pulsating, in their minds and their bodies, you can't take it away and say, it's like saying to our girls that you can't wear these clothes because, out there, if you step out wearing these clothes, people will look at you and will pass comments or come and attack you. That's not the solution.
But let's say an adolescent at 16 and 18, Dr. Sen, are they very different in terms of their cognitive ability, in terms of their emotional ability to really understand the consequences?
See, it is not a cut-off like that because, the cognitive abilities is growing. And in fact, adolescence stops only at 25.
Yeah.
So the process of growth and development, both biologically and psychologically, emotionally, is going to continue. So should we say that, one should not think of sex till 25? I mean, that's preposterous, isn't it? So the differences, and also it's individualistic. I mean, adolescents grow in different ways. They get exposed to different things depending on socio-cultural context, their own individual, propensity to get interested in certain things and so on. So there are individual differences as well. And there's not a lot of difference, honestly, between 16 and 18-year-olds. 16-year-olds also have the capability to gather information, to make balanced judgments, use logic and reasoning. And indeed, it is a learning process for them at this age to understand consent, boundaries, build trusting relationships and so on. Right. And if they don't learn it now, they'll probably, falter and flounder even after 18 because they haven't had the opportunity to learn these skills, isn't it?
And Dr. Sen, what about the one thing which is being spoken of, exploitation? That's one of the words that everyone who's opposing this move is saying, that there is a high possibility of then 16 to 18-year-olds being vulnerable to exploitative partners, elder partners. What are your thoughts there, and what could that do to a person's psyche in the long term?
What we can do is, rather than take away their rights completely in this domain, we can have clauses in the law which says that, to protect them from exploitation. There are things that we know now from the research that has gone on, the data that we have. We have seen that a large section of the exploitation happens within families, older relatives, teachers, or it happens when there is a power dynamic, like between castes and religion, and who's the perpetrator and so on. And if you are able to put that in the law and in the clause that what is the age differential, what is the relationship with a person that consensual sex is agreed upon. Is there use of force, of coercion? Is there a power dynamic? Like, is the young person coming to work in a household, which is when that happens, then it becomes exploitative, or it is being done with an ulterior motive. Those are kind of things that we can weave into the law so that it also becomes protective at the same time. So where there is a blanket kind of an openness after 18, where anybody can have a consent to give consent to a sexual relationship, between 16 and 18 it can be much more nuanced. Then we can actually put in riders and clauses over there to protect the children, at the same time give them agency and the freedom to do what they're biologically and psychologically programmed to do. Because it's a part of growing up. It's a part of understanding your own self. It's a part of developing your identity and understanding your gender, sexuality in deeper ways. And if we take that right away from them, then we are, again, as I said, doing them a huge disservice, taking away agency from our age group, where the more agency we give them, the more freedom they have to make life choices.
But do they really have that kind of agency, Dr. Sen? A lot of critics who are strictly against lowering the consensual age to 16 are saying, how are you talking about an adolescent at 16, 17 and agency in the same breath?
No, but isn't it true that we are at the same time seeking to see a generation which will be more responsible, which will, be more reflective, which will take
because at 16 they're not even out of school, they're not even on their own, they're not standing on their own feet, they're not financially independent. So there's a host of other factors that come into play. So making those decisions that could change your life, flip it altogether at that age, is that a wise thing to do? That's what's being asked.
Yeah. So if you look at the Indian context, even an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old still is dependent on the family. They are being, their education is being paid for. Most of them live in the family, within the family. So it's not as if that at 18, at that cutoff, suddenly things dramatically change in the lives of young people. And as we now know that biologically, psychologically, the age of maturity is actually much later. It's a process. It's not a cutoff in my mind, right? And we have to, help our young people to get into that process so that they become more competent and more responsible as they grow up. And so it's not going to be, one thing or the other, this way or that. It has to be a nuanced approach where we are able to actually do this journey with them, rather than be, kind of just from the top, from a legal point of view, an adult point of view, put a kind of a boundary and say, this is not allowed right now, right? So
that brings me to the other side of the coin, Dr. Sen. What does an incident wherein you're criminalizing young love, so for any of the two partners concerned, what does that situation do to their psyche? Is there trauma that follows, stigma, mental health problems? Elaborate a little on that.
It is indeed traumatic, for something which is so natural, and perhaps for many young people, something that is exciting, beautiful, it helps them to, again, feel good about themselves. They have a certain sense of self, of validation when they get into romantic relationships, isn't it? Yeah. And you criminalize that, it's deeply traumatic, and they might carry that trauma for the rest of their lives. They may not be able to have trusting relationship for years to come after that, right? So we are also, in a way, by putting in such a heavy law out there, creating a lot of dissonance and trauma in the young generation. And we know that the exploitation comes from the other side as well. So when young people get into consensual relationships, there are other people, adults, who do not approve of it and will use the law so unfairly, in such a unjust manner, to be able to get after, particularly young men who have got into it, and criminalize them. It's traumatic for both. It's very traumatic for the girl as well.
So you're saying lowering the consensual age, Dr. Sen, will shift the society's focus from criminalization to education, maybe. Maybe it will be a reverse story.
Absolutely. So sexuality then becomes a part of life skills, and we have to incorporate that. Life skills has become a part of education now. The NEP says that life skills should be a part of education, should be done on a weekly basis in every class from a very early age. And I think that if we shift the lens and say that this is an essential part of growing up, of healthy growth and development, of responsibility and agency in young people, then we have to begin to educate them, have open conversation, make safe spaces where we can have conversations about things which are otherwise such a taboo. We don't talk about sexuality. Parents can't talk about sexuality to their children. That's not okay. That's something that we have to question as a society. Why can't we do it?
You're compelling us, Dr. Sen, this morning to really look at the brighter side here, look at how this could make a shift for the right reasons and is the way forward, really. So thank you for joining us with that interesting takeaway. Thank you. Thank you for being with us here on The Breakfast Club.